Since Labour have come to power, then over the last 3 days, we've got a women's minister who isn't sure what a woman actually is and a prime minister who thinks the same. We're releasing prisoners early, I think halfway into their sentence, which is obviously going to end up really well. We've got Chinese troops amassing on the border pretty much of Ukraine on a rebuilding mission. We know where that's going to go. We're rebuilding. I think we're doing a building program, about 350,000 houses a year, irrespective of where the British talent is going to come from. We've got unskilled labour, of course. We haven't invested in the skill base for those people, of course, but we're going to bring more migrants in now. Going to pay them some money. Why not? Maybe that's going to help us build houses. Wind farms, did I mention those already? We're going to bring those back again. An interesting one. But look, guys, what we're not going to do for the next 5 years is talk about this Labour government. They're not going to be any better than Conservatives. If anything, they're probably going to be worse if that is possible. But what we don't want to be doing is wrapping ourselves up in like a rage X, like everything's so bad. And you might have noticed on social media or in your local communities that things have got a bit quieter since Labour came in. And that's quite interesting to me, really, because you think, well, maybe Labour then are the stabilising force, but that's not the truth, of course. The truth is that people on the left of politics, whatever the left-right is, the people on the left are slightly unhinged. So with Labour in, they haven't got anything to rage at, have they? They can't rage at the right anymore. So it has got a bit quieter, which is a blessing, of course. But look, the one thing I really want to talk about in this video, and I'm not going to spend very long at all, is that investment in self. I've talked about it a little bit before. Maybe I need to kind of reiterate this a little bit. How important this next 5 years is going to be for everyone. The truth of the matter is, whether you like it or not, the only person that's going to look after you is yourself. You know, I talk a lot about no one's coming to save you. That bit on the end that no one mentions is from yourself. So the full sentence being, no one's coming to save you from yourself. That's the most important thing. And we do have these really destructive habits, don't we? All got them, of course. I'm not lecturing you at all. This is 5 years where you can do one of two things. We can sit here and we can rage against the current government that we can do nothing about. Yes, they're going to clamp down on freedom of speech. Yes, they're not going to let us do whatever we want to be doing. Yes, they're going to come for small businesses like mine and my wife's. Yeah, and I could create a whole channel based on that, couldn't I? That's not what Fast Jet Performance is about. It really isn't. It's really not. We could enter that victimhood narrative, couldn't we? But we don't want to be doing that. Not as British people. We don't want to be doing this. Sit there. I'd say something recently to someone as well and saying, look, I'm not willing to spend time with you if you're going to be in that victimhood narrative. That's not who I am, most definitely. And sometimes I've got reason to be with the things that happen to me, guys, but I'm not going to sit there and wallow in self-pity. That's not the British way of doing things. When I go to my gym, which now I've parked up, it's like over there. It's got a flag. It's got the English flag in it, straight up. It's got the Union flag in it, and it's got a flag of Richard I, Richard Lionheart in it as well. That reminds me of my ancestry. It reminds me of my history and who came before me. And I think what we need to do as British people is really think about that. Like, who came before us? Like, what are we here? What are we representing? We can all look for the next fun thing. We can all go and buy the big car, can't we? We'll go buy the big house. We can all be very decadent, go out to all the bars and everything else, and we can treat ourselves really well, buy all the nice clothes. But look, what are we here for if it's not to protect the land that our ancestors gave us? And they did. They gave us this land. And I look at it now, and the more I think about it, like, especially with immigration happening all over the world. Someone was telling me in America with a new immigrant coming across the border, like 6 million or something. I can't remember the figure, but they're giving them like £1,500 or $1,500, sorry, a month. That's more than you get on a military pension. So you could be in the military for however many years, or you could come across the border and you're going to get more by coming across the border in a state handout than you would on a military pension. There's something fundamentally wrong. And someone said, well, yeah, but it stops them going into crime, doesn't it? It stops these immigrants going into crime. Fundamentally, something's wrong. We're doing the same thing in the UK. Now, what I'm talking about is that conversation. So why don't we have that conversation about, how many immigrants do we need? What are we looking at in the next 20 years? What are we looking at over the next 30, 50 years? What's the forecast? Can we survive as a country not having children? I read something saying that there are more over 85-year-olds now. It's like 4 times as many over 85-year-olds as there were in 1970. And of course, the strain that puts on NHS is absolutely huge. But these conversations need to be had. We're mature people. I've always believed if you're open with people, you lay it down the line. Okay, we're going to get the people coming in from the left and right going, rah, we're going to get the rah, and we're going to get all that. We understand that, those outliers and those people on the fringes. Most of us are pretty rational. And we'd be happy if someone said, look, if we don't, well, would we be happy? That's a conversation in itself. But look, if we don't bring in a certain amount of immigration, whether skilled or unskilled, this country will not be the same in 2030. What does that mean? 2040, 2050? What does it mean? Does it mean that if we don't do this, there won't be any jobs? Or I don't know. I don't know what the outcome's going to be. There won't be any pensions for old age people because we're not having the kids. So all I'm saying is, these are the kind of things we need to talk about over the next 5 years, not whether we're building wind farms that are going to damage eagles, whether we're building 350,000 homes that are mainly going to house immigrants. You know, we've got to have mature conversations. In the comments, let me know if you kind of understand this or if you feel the same, because you might be a little bit upset. Like, no, Tim, we need to chuck all the immigrants out. Yeah, I understand that. It's not practical though, is it? I mean, as much as I probably would agree with you, repatriation, isn't it? Chuck them all out. I understand that. Believe me, I'm a practical guy. But the truth is, obviously we need some immigration. I remember Cameron back in 2010 said it was going to be like 30 to 50,000, I think it was. And now we know the last 2 years it's been 2.5 million. Got to have a conversation about it. That's all I'm saying. But the main thing is not to get wrapped up about it, not to fall into that victimhood narrative. So fitness, family, finance, we'll understand that. Get yourself moving a little bit. Like, okay, here's what I try and do every day. I did this today. I've done this, a few months now, I suppose. Wake up in the morning, 7 o'clock, I'm up. I don't do tea. First thing, I just hit the streets to do about an hour of walking, right? It covers about 8,500 steps. You can do a bit longer and cover the 10,000 if you want to. So that's, you know, and then I come back and then I'm doing a small weight session in there, depending on what it is, what day it is. And I've got one of those ski ergs as well. So I do a bit of cardio, about 30 minutes worth of cardio. And I consider that to be enough. It's quite hard. It was hard today. Kind of running into fatigue issues now. That's my fitness. Family. I've got my wife. It can be quite difficult sometimes. I haven't got children, right? So that's trying to keep that happy home together. It's not easy. There's things you got to do together. We had an argument the weekend, actually. We were down at Henley Regatta arguing over something really small. I can't remember what it was right now. But you've got to come out of that. You know, you're going to argue about something, fine. You've got to come out of it. You've got to keep that family out. You've got to keep that family together. So that's the family aspect. You know, you've got to build something together. And then the finance, you know, are you in something that's sustainable in your work? You know, can you elevate yourself? Do you want to elevate yourself? Do you want to go up to the next level or not? Most elevation is actually sideways. It's not promotion within companies. You need to leave and then you need to promote somewhere else. So I don't think you're going to get picked up within your company. You know this. I talk to my students about this a lot. You're going to have to sideways move to elevate, and elevating isn't always what you want. You're going to be phoned up at the weekend now. Anything over about 70 grand, 80 grand, that's some big money right there. But you're going to be phoned up at the weekend. You're going to be asked to stay late for work. You have to hold a phone for someone. You have to make some decisions you don't want to make. You know, there's a lot to be said for not earning that kind of money and having a much easier life. I don't earn that kind of money. So, you know what I mean? I don't earn that kind of money, but I have a lot of time to make YouTube videos for you guys. You know what I'm saying? We just don't earn any money, by the way. Also, I appreciate the super chats. I'm not too sure what those are. People sending me like £2 or £5. Big up you. Seriously, thank you for that. That's a great thing in the super chats. I mean, I didn't realize people could send you money on YouTube. I don't make any money. I think last month I made £95 on YouTube. How cool is that? So thank you for the super chats. Helps me do these things. And whilst I'm talking about that, big shout out to Tommy Robinson. We're just on Jordan Peterson's podcast with Tammy, Jordan's wife Tammy, and fascinating. About an hour and a half chat about Tommy's early years. Only got up to 2018. Fascinating, his prison time and everything else. The 27th in London, 27th of July. A lot of British people are getting together, men and women, and making a bit of a stand. So I will be there, probably heavily disguised. You know what I mean? Because I get a few threats. You know what I'm saying, for speaking out about things. But if you are there and you see me, then by all means come up and say hi. That'd be absolutely great if you get the chance to do that, all right? I'd really appreciate that. But yeah, that's mainly it, guys. So I'm just saying, fitness, family, finance, just try not to get too bogged in the next 5 years of labour. Are they going to be that worse at all? I don't know. Hey, never mind. Let me know what you think, all right? Tim Davies, Fast Ship Performance. I appreciate it, guys. I do.